There
Hey,
you
what's up, guys? How you doing? This is DeRion Brown, your host of the podcast Philosophy for Life. I have a business and life coach here with me. Her name is Megan Wing. We're going to talk everything from business growth, life advice in general. I'm really interested about this podcast because we're both on a similar journey. I read a lot of stuff on self improvement, and then also I'm actually trying to build my brand at the moment. So, Megan, can you give yourself a short introduction?
Oh my gosh, of course. And I'm apologies for anybody who is watching this video. I don't know what just happened with there were fireworks on the screen. It was just a really exciting introduction. But hello. I my name is Megan. And I'm a life and business coach. Started as a life coach, transitioned to a business coach, and I started my business Six Figure Systems to help people who are entrepreneurs really help them scale to their first six and multiple six figures using systems to help them make more in less time.
So why did you make the transition? Because honestly, I'm into that whole self improvement guru space. Like, what made you go from the self improvement space to the to helping people build their business?
That is a great question. So the interesting thing, I was like, in when we were talking beforehand, we were talking about the journey of how I got to where I am. And one of the interesting things about my journey is that it was just like very not linear and it just kind of like flowed from different thing to different thing. So what happened is I was receiving coaching for 3 years from 2018 to or yeah, 2018 to 2020. And as we all know, in the pandemic, a lot of things shifted. For me personally, I actually decided to start a life coaching business from scratch. I was a former elementary school teacher. So I don't know if you knew that about me, but I used to teach kiddos and I did not leave teaching because of the pandemic and the situations in schools. I knew that my business would give me the lifestyle and the time and financial freedom I was looking for. So I decided to go out there and start a business. I loved coaching, like total self-improvement junkie. Listened to podcasts every day on the way to school, would coach myself at school, and I loved what I like just the experience I had. I wanted to give that to other people as so many of us do. Like we feel the shifts in ourselves and start the coaching business. And then I learned that having a business is like a very in-depth learning experience. There's you can be the best coach ever, and if you don't know how to run a business, that lovely business with really well intentions, good intentions, really will not get as far as you kind of hope. And I realized that I had to learn a lot about business. So I took time, invested in a bunch of programs, learned all the pieces that made a successful business, and then figured that I could create systems around it to just like make a business that flowed seamlessly. And I was actually in a couple of coaching programs and people kept asking me, What do you do? How do you do what you do? Why does like it seems like something you figured something out?" And so it started as a really informal journey. I ended up having 18 clients at one point and 11 had a business. And I was like, huh, interesting, and a bunch of them also were like, "I want to start a business," and so I figured it would be a good shift, knew about business coaching, it knew how to coach people in business, and then I made the shift. So that was kinda like the journey from self-improvement to business.
Okay, so what age group were you teaching?
Great question. So I actually taught, 1st grade for 6 years, and halfway through that last year, I switched to virtual kindergarten, which was an
Oh wow,
adventure. Yeah.
how was virtual kindergarten? How did you get kindergartners to like pay attention? How was that?
It was actually really so one of the things that I have found is that within my kind of philosophy, as you guys can probably hear in my voice, I'm pretty energetic and I know that kids have an attention span of about 30 seconds. So I tried to like change my approach to the way I was coaching these or teaching these kiddos. And I was like, okay, how can I make this as engaging and lively as possible, even though we're separate? And so what I would do is we delivered whiteboards to the kids, and I would give a math problem or a spelling a word to spell, and I would have them write it on their whiteboard and they would hold it up, and I'd be like, the grading scale that we used was between a 1 and a 4. And so I'd be like, Sasha, you get a 3, and Nicole, you get a 3. And I would just like be like cheered it up, and I'd be like, all right, and now we're gonna do a brain break. And it was just like very lively and exciting. And I think that's one of the reasons why I actually enjoy it. Like it was not something that I think most people would define as something that was interesting and intriguing, but I think it taught me a lot about like how to psychologically engage a tiny human and actually help them to grow and learn. And I truly think like I don't necessarily believe that everything happens for a reason, but I think you can find a reason for everything. And now coaching virtually in large classrooms, I'm like, it was meant to be.
You know, they say that people who become millionaires, professions that transition into entrepreneurship that actually become millionaires, is teachers and engineers. So you know you're on the right track. I'm wondering, does any of those skills that you use while you were teaching kindergarten, does any of those skills transition and help you into your own business right now?
1,000,000%. I think one of the interest it's so interesting that you say that because I think the connection that my brain made from teachers and engineers is a deep understanding of how things work and how to shift and change things quickly to get the desired result you want, right? So I think
Mm,
that for me, what I'm hearing is that those two, that's a skill. And I think that absolutely has helped me in my business. I love understanding how the human mind works. And I love understanding more about like human psychology and like the polyvagal theory, like just all these different nuances to neuroscience. I think I just love understanding how things work. Actually, going previously even further back, I actually wanted to get into medicine before teaching. But my favorite class I ever took in high school was anatomy because I used to loved understanding how things worked, seeing how I could
mm,
put it together in a way that could make things better and very much improvement minded and improvement seeking. And I think that the self help kind of atmosphere also is very much in that same regard. It's like we want to understand how things work so we can create improvement. And so I think that's what really helped me to thrive, I think, within my coaching business is just always having that student heart and like always wanting to learn, always curious, and just thinking about how we can make things better. And I also think
mhm,
that really served me in my business because I was like, okay, this is just like a new subject. I'm just learning a new skill, the skill of marketing. I'm going to learn the skill of sales and I'm going to go through and I'm going to invest in these kind of things to really create a robust kind of functioning business and then learning each of those pieces in depth. I think my teaching ability, of course, has helped me to like explain all of the nuances of business to my humans. So that's where I feel like the strengths from the past have really helped me to propel my business forward along
mhm.
with like now have modules and I teach my clients and I have PowerPoints and things like that that I mean all my stuff is on Google Classroom still. And it's so awesome because I'm like I know how to set up a curriculum to create success in like adult tiny children. And one of the things I always say to people, I'm like, if I could coach 38 6-year-olds in multiple subjects online at one time. Now I had like 24 in my class, but like and get like 150 grades per kid, I can coach adults to do pretty much anything. I'm like, that is a cakewalk compared
I
to
hear you. I think what I get from that is that you're a lifelong learner. I'm the same way. You know, me being
yeah.
former athlete, I'm so used to diagnosing an issue, finding out a
Mhm,
solution to that issue, and then implementing it. Whether that
mhm,
solution works or not, I'm always trying to grind and to find a way to
mhm.
become better with whatever I'm doing. You know, and I've
Yeah.
kind of taken that from sports and applied that to multiple different areas of my life. What I'm wondering is with the mindset training that you got into. I saw a few of your videos. It showed that you really were deep into mindset. You're trying to, I guess, share that information, trying to build a business on top of that. Why did you get into the mind space field in the first place, and why did you transition out of it?
I'm like, there, oh my gosh, long stories. I was like, I've got so much to share. I was like,
Mm,
essentially, when I first found coaching, I was actually in a dip in a relationship that I was in. And actually, to even backpedal a smidge before that, as a teacher, typic in North Carolina, where I'm located, I had a couple of other jobs along with teaching. So I would teach by day and I also was a yoga instructor by night, along with having like at 1.5 different jobs. So I was like, always had my hands in different things to create some flexibility for myself. And within yoga teaching, I got certified at a studio, and the person who led my teacher training became a coach. And
mhm,
it was through the life coach school. And in order to complete her training at the time, she had to coach 10 people, do 6 sessions for free. And so she just posted for all the other instructors. It was like, who would like some free coaching? I'm doing this to get certified. And for me, I'm always one, I'm like, I always would love to improve. I'm like, I've never heard of this coaching thing, but something to make my life better, sign me up. I'm all in. And that was back in 2017. And when I did that, I learned it felt good. I was like, okay, this is really neat, but it wasn't the time or space that I needed at the moment that I received the free coaching. And so I didn't
mhm,
actually continue with her come a year later. And I was going through some struggles in my relationship. And I hired a therapist, a counselor, and went right back in and I hired her as my coach. And within that, that's kind of how I got started on the journey of learning more about my mind, learning how I could create the results I wanted to. Like when I heard that my thoughts could create my results, I was just like, wait, are you sure? I'm like, that parent that just came rolling into my classroom did not create the results of me being frustrated. You mean I
mhm.
can control that and change the way that I respond to things in a way that's intentional, in a way that I actually choose and feel empowered through? I was like, what is this? I'm like, I must learn everything. And I got a little obsessive about it. And I was like, I'm just going to learn everything there is to know, listen to a bunch of podcasts about it. And actually, to transition to having a business, I knew that in the future, I would love an opportunity to have the flexibility to work from home just in case I had children. And I knew that actually my coach asked me, she was like, "Where do you want to be in 10 years?" And I said, "Working from home." And I just finished my national boards at the time. She's like, you can't teach from home." And I was like, "Oh no." I was like,
Mm.
"Jackie, what am I going to do?" Like, what is going
Yeah,
to,
that's a problem.
yeah, we've got a problem. And she had hinted at, and the interesting thing, I literally think that one of the reasons why I transitioned to being a business coach now is asked me, she was like, "You've listened to 700 podcasts. You coach yourself every day. Do you think maybe you want to start a coaching business?" And for me, I was like, "Oh no. Having a business is so hard. I can't do that. That sounds impossible." And so, and no one in my family had really had a solopreneurship like this. Like other people had dabbled in business and had like brick and mortars, but it was never like an online service space like a lot of businesses are now. And so I really didn't know anything about how to grow a business and it was extremely intimidating. And um one of the things that my coach said, she was like, "I would guide you." She's like, "I will absolutely help you through this process." And so I continued working with her, still work with her to this day. Absolutely love Jackie. And one of the things that I found is that a lot of us, I think the traditional careers fulfill a lot of our strengths, but
Mhm.
I think that the opportunity of entrepreneurship is that we can actually like really get into our zone of genius, really get into something that we love and are passionate about. And I think the only learning curve is the how behind entrepreneurship. And I just think it's like kind of serendipitous that like I was like, I will never start a business because I don't know how to run a business. And now I teach other people how to step into their zone of genius, how to get into the thing they love and that they're passionate about and make it really easy for them to help other people.
Mhm.
So that was a really long answer. And I'm sorry. I
It
tangent.
was, but let's dig into it. So, there's a strong correlation between improving your mindset and starting a business. Because in order for you to
Mhm.
start a business, you have to basically become the type of person who can start a business and actually keep that business up and running. I had my own self improvement mental journey throughout the last years, throughout the decade, really, the last decade.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I noticed while I was improving my mindset, not only was my thinking changing, but my environment was changing. My social circle was changing. The people
Mm.
who I had friendships with, and also the people I had relationships with. What I want to know from you is, you working on yourself and improving your mindset, did that impact your social life in any kind of way?
Oh yeah. Oh, it did. Excellent
Mm,
question. So I really don't think that everything I don't necessarily believe that everything happens for a reason, because there's some really dark things that happen in the world.
mhm,
However, I do believe that you can find a reason for everything. And I do think that there are people that we connect with and they're meant to be in our lives for certain periods of time. And I also think that it might not be forever. And one of the things that I found as I started my business is I had a lot of fear around becoming visible, allowing myself to be put on social media, allowing myself to really speak out about something I was really passionate about. And I had a certain community around me. And it's interesting because I had expectations of current um, people in my community that I thought were going to be extremely supportive. I also had expectations that there were gonna be people who would be very judgmental and not supportive, and that fear kept me just coaching without sharing anything about it from May of 2020 to August of 2020. So there were months
mhm,
where I was just so scared of becoming visible. And to come back to your point of connections and relationships, one of the things that happened for me is the people who I actually expected to be more supportive, there were some people I expected to be supportive, like my family and some of my really close friends that stayed that way, and it was wonderful, and it just developed our relationship to the next level.
mhm,
There were other people, like, I had a partner at the time that we actually grew apart, and he ended things, I think potentially in due to the business, but also just like we shifted apart. I also had another group of friends that we shifted apart and really haven't spoken with them in a very long time. And so I have that just like love and appreciation for them for what they meant to me at that time. And I also realized that they were in my life for a certain time period for a reason and served the purpose that they needed to. And now I've refilled that space with people to get me to the next piece of my journey. And that's one of the beautiful things about it is that, like, even though it could feel really un- there's like just a dissonance, there's an uncomfortable nature to having people that you love, especially for someone who like loves humans. And I just want to
mhm.
have all the relationships and friendships. I
And you want to
realized
help. You want to
I
help them. You love
oh,
them.
always, and
Yeah.
I just like, that was an interesting shift that I wasn't expecting, is that the close people, some of them actually shifted out of my, inner circle entirely, shifted in different ways. The other interesting piece, though, was that some people who I was very concerned about would be, like, the harshest critics became my biggest supporters, shifted into
Mm,
a different aspect of my life. The other thing was like posting on social media, people who I didn't even know I had like a deep connection with from high school, from college, like people I hadn't spoken with in years came out of the
yeah.
woodworks and were like, whatever happened to you in 2018, I've watched you. You're a different person. They were like,
Mhm,
"You are on time for things. You actually, like, are really showing up more confident and authentic. And they were like, if that is what coaching did, I want some of that. And now to this day, they are some of my deepest, most intimate friends. And we are still extremely close to this day. So I would say for like, I don't know, for me, I just want to like encourage people to like just kind of trust the process, trust the relationships are in there
Mm.
for a reason. And I want to know like if you experience like something similar with the relationships in your life probably shifting.
I definitely have experienced something similar. Before I remember when I first started experiencing this early on during my journey, people can see you changing without you
Yeah.
even, expressing it. People can see it in your demeanor, the way you can communicate, your light, your glow. People know when something's a little bit different about you. And yeah, I started getting jealousy from people that I loved. I always tell people I've lost more sleep over the loss of a friend than a loss of a romantic partner. And definitely friends and family, people have gotten jealous. I mean, it used to bother me, but it's something that still continues to happen. And it's been about 10 years since that process started. And what I understand now is that if you really understand the laws of nature, things like that really don't phase you. What I want to say, during the pandemic, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and she was telling me that people just want to be around people that are like them. This is during the Black Lives Matter thing, and she was referring to like race, right? And I said, yes, people want to be around people that are like them, but not necessarily that look like them. People who think like them. So if you're improving yourself, you're basically becoming a different person, and your mode of thinking is changing. So because your mode of thinking is changing, the people you were around before, they're not thinking like that. So
Mhm.
for them to keep that relationship alive, they have to bring you down. They have to bring you down back to who you were, so that that relationship can survive, because they're not going to meet you up there. But if you continue to work on yourself, it's just natural that you're going to continue to learn more things. You're going to become a different version of yourself consistently. And then during that process, you're going to meet some people, you're going to lose some people, you're going to consistently grow. So that's the way that I see it. I see that if you're on the self-improvement journey, especially when it comes to romantic partners, you have to be with somebody that is at least with the version of you that you like. If you like
Mhm.
yourself, if you like who you are, and you find somebody during that stage of your life that you're happy, you'll have a great relationship. But if you're down and out, you really don't like the position you're in life, you don't like the way you look necessarily, and then you find somebody that falls in love with that version of you, and then you start working on yourself, then you're going to be, in the danger zone, because they're not looking for the healthy, motivated version of that person.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I couldn't agree more. And I think that it's like I think that one of the things I've learned on this like self-improvement journey is that there's no like point when I'm gonna be necessarily the best version of myself. You know what I mean? It's just always a process of continuing growing and learning. And I think that there are just different levels and phases of our lives where we're like just in a different energetic capacity and things like that, where we're really either quite active and we're like, okay, like this is I'm feeling like I'm in a good energy. And then there are other times when maybe we might not be in its I'm avoiding like labeling like good and bad, you know? It's
Hmm.
not necessarily like good or bad per se. However, one of the things that I do think is that like one of the things I've noticed is that as I've shifted, again, not necessarily like I'm better than I was before because I think it's all like subjective. However, I do think that where I've shifted, it's brought the people that I need at that level. And so it's like I think that I can appreciate and love the people who, again, like I said, in the past that were just like a really perfect fit for where I was in my life and the phase I was in. And I'm like, it was a great match. And I also think that shift to people being maybe we need like different people. And like you mentioned, like the you want to be with people who are like you. It's like,
Hmm.
I think that just it naturally like brings people into your life and like attracts people in and like, repels the people who aren't necessarily meant to be in your life in that time. But I will say that, like, it is so interesting on the entrepreneurial journey. The friends that I have made are some of the just they're just so interesting and so fun,
Mhm.
and it really, like, I'm like, "Oh, this is where I think I was supposed to be all along." Like, I went to a master I like, just, a retreat this weekend with some of my very good friends, and from all vastly different walks of life, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different races, and things like that, and I think it just was such a fascinating and beautiful culmination of all of these driven people that were ready to change the world and ready to make the world a better place. And I think that that's one of the biggest shift I've experienced. Like you mentioned, painful, painful at
Mhm.
points. I love the people, but it just wasn't meant to be. And I think that the world was like, hey, we need
Yeah.
to switch this up a little. Like, figure this out. This is not a good fit for you. And if you aren't willing to remove yourself from the situation, we're gonna make that situation. You're gonna get out of this situation whether you like it or not. And I'm like, okay, I'm learning to just go with the flow a little bit more than clinging to the past.
It's wild because when you work on yourself and you get to that stage and you start meeting people, you just realize like how amazing people really are. Like how many creative people there really are out there, people who resonate with your message. I've been meeting all kinds of creative people since doing what I'm doing, and my circle continues to grow, and I'm still, honestly shocked by it. What I want to do, I want you. How did you, when you transition from being a teacher to being an entrepreneur, like how did you get the confidence to completely quit your job and then start your own business, or did you slowly transition from being a teacher into starting a business?
So I was very fearful at the beginning. I was like proceeding with caution heavily. I did feel like it was something that was a piece of my purpose and something I really felt like I was genuinely meant to do. However, I wanted to do it in a way where I felt safe to expand and grow without putting myself in, like, necessarily, like, I avoid saying, like, harm's way, because, like, you can just go in and go, like, hard in your business and just, like, start, and that just wasn't for me. So what I did is I started my business, really in August of 2020, and I just announced it on Instagram. I thought I was going to coach kids, by the way. So I started as a coach for children because I was like, I taught kids, I could do this. And then it was a conflict of interest as a teacher. So
How
I
so?
couldn't,
How so?
because I was coaching them on academics, and it was like
Okay.
advanced tutoring. Yeah. So it was like
Mm.
illegal. And so I was like, and again, what I mean by, like, the world kind of just shifted me where I needed to be. It was like I was so like, just bent on me being this version for the children's, and I posted on Instagram, and that's when all the people from college and high school came out. So it ended up within that first little bit, I actually signed 6 clients that I had, and I did 10 months initially because I it was 10 months of her school year. So I was like, "Perfect. This is exactly what's gonna, be what takes them to the next level." So I coached them all the way through the summer of 2021. And so during that time, I was learning how to market. I invested in every possible coaching thing I could, because I didn't know anything. I was literally just like, I even though I had experience in learning, I was not a marketer. I did not know how to sell. I did not know how to bring people in, like, bring in leads. I had no idea how to plan for a business. So what happened is I created just kind of like ways to think about business in that time, failed, learned a lot, but I realized that I was like, I really wanted to go all in on this business for a year. I was like, this is the time when I left. So I saved up enough to live for the year from those 6 clients. I actually replaced my teaching salary with that clientele, and ended up going full time in the summer of 2021 and
Mm.
seeing what would work. And so much went wrong, and it was really scary. And
We're
even
gonna
when I was
dig.
like, whoo,
We're
it
gonna
was,
dig into that. We're
oh,
gonna
it was
dig
an
into it.
adventure and a half. I was like, my friend, yeah,
I
I
want to
just cried.
know. I want to know, do you think that that's going to change in the future as far as like teaching kids online? The reason I said that because
Oh,
everything's becoming a lot more digital.
yeah.
People's, I want to say, opinion when it comes to college education is actually, I want to say, it's just people are looking at college as not necessarily the only option. So, do you think that in the future, sometime, because you're more familiar with this niche than I am, do you think that sometime in the future, possibly that business you were thinking of teaching kids online, do you think that'd be something that will be pretty solid in the future?
So I think there are just so many nuances to that. I think that at different stages of a child's development, I think there are different motivators, drivers, and things that can help them to excel. So, academically, I do think there's a huge opportunity online. I loved, even when I was in person, incorporating a lot of like interactive reading materials that could really help me clone myself and support my students to grow. So there was like things that I would have them, they would listen to a read aloud, and that replaced my ability to have them read it aloud, and that was really supportive and helpful.
Mm,
I do think that there is a huge component of social emotional development that I think is a little bit more, it's, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I would say it's more challenging to replicate in an online space. I think for
mm,
me, I was like, I love like connecting with my kids, and I felt a knowledge base of them, so somewhat online. And when they came in person for testing, I realized there were so many aspects to that child that, because I hadn't had the time, or there's, I would say it just felt a little bit different when
I get
we
it.
met in person, and so I do think there's opportunities there. I think that especially as we are becoming more emotionally and socially developed, as I think maybe it's more imperative at a younger age. However, I do think that, like, from what I've heard from, like, colleagues and friends that were in the, I am just purely speaking to lower elementary, but in the high
Hmm.
school and upper education, I found that that disconnect during growth was also really, really challenging to navigate, along with, like, things like that. Like, again, I love social emotional health. That's actually one of the big pieces I loved about teaching, and I
Yeah.
found that, I think it's not impossible, but I do think that there's just a lot of opportunities for growth, for our education system, for technology to advance in a way that I would, like, be like, "This is A to B fit." I think there are and I also think that there's ways that, like, online school, you could probably progress faster in maybe an academic form than you maybe would in person, and so it's like, it's a catch 22, and I would say, what is, like, the goal of education overall? And that's where I think it's both, and so I think it's tricky.
You make some really good points. I do think that things are going to be digital, and I think it's a plus if it gives you the opportunity to learn something a lot faster than you would have if you were in a classroom. But one of the downsides of the digital space is that you lose that human connection. And one of the only spaces that people really get that human connection is at school. I've noticed that people have become a lot more socially awkward. I mean, I'm sure you've seen this on the internet. There's YouTube channels about dissing women. There's YouTube channels about dissing men. And really what it comes down to, people are afraid of the opposite sex, and they don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to communicate with the person. They don't know how to vet for a person. They don't even know how to vet for their friends. And a lot of these social skills that people are they're angry about, they're missing. A lot of the ones that are getting a lot of the videos that get a lot of attention today, these weren't issues, I want to say, when I was in my early 20s, because it was kind of, college was one of those opportunities where you had the chance to challenge your belief system, because we all came from
Mhm.
different walks of life. There are people that didn't necessarily look like you, and people who they just had a different mode of thinking. But college, because we didn't have these well, social media wasn't what it is today. It had just came out. But I remember that people understood that if you were going to have friends, if you were going to get a girlfriend, you had to speak, you had to open your mouth, you had
Mhm.
to challenge yourself in that way. So it's definitely something that we are losing as a culture. And if we take that away from kids and children, I'm not sure if they'll have another opportunity. We need to find a balance in the culture,
Yes.
definitely to bring back those social spaces. um Regarding your business, I want to know about the struggle. I know for me, starting my business, I was teaching software development. I was teaching mobile software development, and I know it's a good space to make money, because tech is growing, people want to know and learn how to code, but things didn't just grow the way I expected them to grow. I made some money, but I didn't make a living off of teaching software development. And I'm learning more. You grow faster if you actually join, if you purchase other people's courses, you go to seminars, they teach you things that are like no brainers now. But how was that journey for you? That struggle at the beginning to where you are now.
Oh my goodness. Well, so I think that as a culture, I think it does develop in school. A lot of times there is a right answer, right? So I think that like a lot of times in even in a traditional career, you have expected results and outcomes, and you are trying to reach those goals and outcomes based on your output, and there's a very clear um path, right? So we got a clear path. It's like, okay, if you do this, if you call this person, if you make this amount of money, then you will get this amount of income and retire, all these things. I think that was a really big shift for me as an entrepreneur. I had to go through learning that there was no right answer, that there was no necessarily like magic bullet that I could do to make my business work. However, I do find that there are common threads through businesses. And that is the thing that I kind of clung to. I was like, okay, every business from you to Amazon has marketing. You need to know how to market yourself and communicate what you do to the population. So I was like, okay, I'm seeing that as a trend. As a service-based business, I'm going to like learn from people who are in a similar state, just maybe like one or two steps ahead. Same with like generating leads. I was like, how, as this teacher from North Carolina, other than my friends and family, how do I really create a new network and learn how to position myself in a way of that genuine service that can help people? So I needed to learn how to bring in leads and nurture my leads so I kind of encompass those and like managing leads. And then I needed to learn the skill of sales. I need to understand what because I knew the coaching could help people. And I would get on consult calls and I'd be like, I can help you. And people would tell me all about the things they need support with. And had a really hard time connecting what they were saying, like to working with me. So I had to learn that. And then I also had to learn how to plan. Like I knew how to plan for a school year. I knew how to plan for anything else in my life, but there are specific things that you need to do as a CEO of a business, even if it's just you and you are a solopreneur, that you need to do to drive your revenue and make sure your time is being used effectively. The other interesting thing, like for me, is that I have ADHD. And so my brain just is already wanting something more concrete and wanting something that keeps me focused on times when I might be in a little bit more of a creative spell. So, what I did is I learned that for each of those pieces of business, the more I invested, the more I learned. And I realized that there were ways to make it work for everybody. And I was like, okay, I just need to statistically make this business inevitable to fail. So that essentially, like for me, that's what I did that first. Though, and I still do. I still like learn all the time, and I'm learning from different mentors and things like that, like you mentioned at the beginning. And one of the things that was so it's like first off, learning all the things was a challenge. You were like, what were the biggest
Mhm.
struggles in that first year? I didn't know what I didn't know. So I had to learn really all the things and compartmentalize just like I was you were mentioning like what is the strength of a teacher? I'm like, I can see the curriculum. I can see the like overarching plan. So I learned how to do that. And then the secondary issue that I experienced in that first year full time and also in my last year part time as a teacher was that there were a lot of social emotional struggles that I was facing as an adult, not just something I was teaching the kids. I was like, I went through a breakup and I went through some like really intense things that went on in my life. I had to switch grade levels and teams. There was so much that happened personally in that year. So it also not only learning how to structure and scale a business, but I also had to learn how to manage my emotions and mind in my personal life that wouldn't interfere with my business. And essentially what happened is it did. I learned because it a lot of the things in my life did create an impact in my business. Even as a coach, even though I knew how to manage my mind, it was just like a really heightened level when my security was online with my business. But then you learn how to like ride the waves of solopreneurship. You learn how to manage the business and you learn how to manage the life around it. And I think those were the two that was the biggest struggle that I experienced in that first year was that like, oh, you don't know anything about running a business. Let's figure this out. And also, just because you have a business doesn't mean your life stops. So you got to make sure you have a plan when things hit the fan, if you know what I mean.
I want to know, like, how did you learn how to sell yourself? Because I
Yeah.
feel like I'm starting to figure that out. But that's definitely once you, I mean, once you ace that, everything else is a lot easier. Like, how did you learn how to sell yourself?
Okay. So I actually have an odd, I was like, it was interesting that those are the things you want to talk about because I was like, I actually have a really unique, I think, perspective on this. I think that depending on what your business is, I think that whether you're a service or a product, I think that there are different results that you can offer potential clients that you need to communicate. So for me, when I was Megan Wing coaching, people were investing in me, not an idea, right?
Mm.
When I shifted to the career fulfillment initiative, which was my original general coaching slash career coaching practice, people were investing in career fulfillment. The first, I think, aspect of sales in my mind is creating a compelling reason why for someone to work with you. And I think by creating a product or an offer around a result that someone can expect to work with you, that is the first step. I call it like a profitable offer or a compelling offer, something that people want and fills a need that's already in the population. So I'd say like that is the first piece as you're thinking about selling yourself. How can you market not you, but an idea that you create and a problem that you solve? That would be like the
Mhm.
first piece of it. And then the second piece is what are the aspects of that? I call it like you've got your offer up here, and then you have your pillars underneath it, almost like a house. And so for me, with the career fulfillment initiative, I had the pillar of overcoming burnout, time management, generating confidence, creating work life balance, and developing a long term plan. So that was the way that when I was doing a consultation and when I was learning how to sell myself in my coaching to people, I wasn't just selling working with me for 10 months. I was selling creating confidence over the course of 10 months. I wasn't selling my price point at the time. I was selling you will learn how to overcome burnout and manage stress for the rest of your career and life, not just in this business, but overall. And I think that's an aspect I see a lot of businesses like kind of a missed opportunity for them to be like
Mhm.
I think it's difficult to describe something that's an intangible growth without having that. It looks like you had a thought. I was like,
I want to know, like you said, you at your business, you have to have your main idea, and then you have like pillars that are associated within that the major scale of the business, the major idea of the business. What is the most common issue that new entrepreneurs deal with? I understand burnout, I understand balance, but which one of those are commonly the main issue that you found that entrepreneurs run into?
so I have found that when I'm thinking about the results of a business, right? If you are looking to grow a business, my now so for six figure systems, my offer now is that there is what's causing, I think, the burnout. if we look a little bit deeper, is lack of ability and understanding about the structure of business, along with the levels of confidence, burnout. Like those are all incorporate work life balance, long term plan, time management. I think those are all infused within having a career and within having a business for sure. But what I found the biggest struggles to be at the beginning is that you're passionate about something and you don't know how to take your passion into something that's profitable. And so that's when you need to learn the skill of marketing, the skill of sales, the skill of lead gen, and the skill of planning. And when you can have that foundation, then those other skills like time management, confidence, work life balance, whatever they might be for the entrepreneur, I feel like those come after you've got that foundation. But I think that if you don't have the foundation of like even just understanding the nuances of a business, I think what I've found is that most people are burnt out, but not necessarily burnt out because of the mental side of burnout, but it's like the inactionable side of burnout where they're like, I just don't know what to do. And so I'm banging my head against the wall. I've heard like throwing spaghetti at a wall, feeling like I'm building the plane as I fly it. And that lack of understanding is just like compounding the burnout that they might experience.
I know for me, when I first got into the entrepreneur space, like I thought that things were just going to happen a lot
Right?
faster. You
Wouldn't that
know,
be
I
so nice?
thought that I thought I had the idea. I was going to make this YouTube channel. It was
Yeah.
going to get so much SEO. People are going
So
to find me, and it would just blow up. And honestly, after 3 years in, I'm just learning how to make YouTube work for me. I had to purchase a course. I had to join somebody else's program. I had to buy books on YouTube and understand the algorithm. So it's kind of I got a feel for how I was conflicting my message and how why my videos weren't finding my target audience as fast as I wanted to
mhm,
find them. But my point is that I know when I started, it was a lot of money was just going out of my pockets and it wasn't coming back into my pockets. Like, how did you go through that process? Like, did you, when you were in a relationship, was that person keeping you above water? Like, how long did it take you to actually start living off your income?
such great questions. First and
Mm.
foremost, I think you meant ask a question earlier, and I wanted to come back to that and then also hit on the financial side because it's so
Okay.
important. So the first thing
Okay.
that I wanted to offer is that you were talking about SEO and you were talking about how it took a long time to figure out the algorithm and figure out a way to market and sell yourself and your business to get it going. One of the things that I've noticed is that when you have something that you're like able to describe that intangible result, what I found is that the things that could be your pillars can be known as keywords. So if you think about so keywords meaning for anyone who doesn't know, those are things that people are searching. So if you think about someone who'd be a good fit for you, what are they googling? What are the things that they are on top of mind? And what's happened with
Mhm.
social media recently is that the algorithm becomes a search engine. So the more you talk about the things that are looked for, the more you'll be able to reach and market to the audience you want. So what I think about like with your business is like you've got the front end of your business that really and to tie back into like the financial like how I had to shift the finances in my business is I realized that if I was going to create a compelling and scalable six figure, multiple six figure to seven figure business, what I realized is I needed to be marketing the same thing that I was selling and the same thing that I was delivering. So when a customer came in, they got a cohesive experience where they were like, okay, I'm learning about confidence the whole way through. And when you do that, what happens is you get referrals, renewals, and testimonials. And so when you've got like that building your business on the front end side of things, I think that creates a really just like a robust message for anyone else who is like looking to learn from you, looking to grow from you. And I had to figure that out for myself and it took a long time. And I'm so glad that you're like on the shit. It's like, okay, you're like, okay, I figured it out. I've learned, I figured out the books. And now I'm like finally stepping into like I get it now space. So applauding you
Mhm.
for that.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
yeah, it's a lot to learn. It took me a while to figure that out, like really my whole first year, it was just kind of like trial and evaluate, I like to say. So within that, that was like the first piece of things. But then the second piece with the financial stability is, if anyone on this is an entrepreneur and is listening to this, there's something very important for you to know. Please do not build your business necessarily fully with personal savings. I did that at the beginning of my business. I put all my life savings into my business, closed my 401k, and what I found, yeah, did all the things because you don't know. You literally like just
Yeah.
don't know. Took out loans, like did all these things to finance my
Yeah.
business. And depending on the level of business that you have, one of the things that I found is that a lot of entrepreneurs who are very passionate and have these passion projects don't understand business finances. And when you are a business owner, what happens is you are able to use credit. You're able to use different things like that to build your business. And you can initially take out a lump sum that you can pay back over time instead of just
Mm.
paying it all up front. I didn't even have a credit card, a personal credit card until 2021. And I didn't get a business credit card. I kid you not, until 2022. Because I was,
Oh
again,
wow.
teacher, just paying it, like, if I don't have the money for it, I will work more after school, I will pick up some nannying jobs, things like that, and it was really,
And did
really
that hurt your credit? Did that hurt your credit at all?
no. No,
Oh,
actually,
okay.
well, for me, though, I it was like I did end up paying, like, I eventually, like, when I would make the money, I would pay it back slowly, have to pay interest, but I can invest in really big ticket items, like, I, one of the most amazing masterminds I got to attend was with a woman named Stacy, and within her mastermind, I paid 25K every 6 months, but I got connections. I got the relationships. I learned things that I never would have been able to figure out on my own, and I made
Mhm.
that back and then some because of my, willingness to really invest more than I could. I was relying on, the partner for, like, kind of income, and then that shifted, very quickly. Surprise to me.
How long were you guys together?
8 years.
Oh, wow.
So,
So this was like,
yeah.
the husband. You guys met each other in college or,
It was, yeah, it was a
Yeah.
surprise that we didn't expect, but totally meant to be. I was, like, wishing that human well, but, yeah,
Mm.
so that happened, and I was kinda, like,
Yeah.
relying on that person for income, and I was like, "Wow,
Were they
okay,
in support were they in support of your goals? Because this is a common issue with, people that are entrepreneurs. Like, how do you balance your business goals and then also balance your relationship? Because I don't know, maybe you're putting a lot more time into your business, your partner gets, they feel like you're not spending enough time with them, or it could be even worse than that, your partner doesn't support your dreams. Like, what do you think it was? And if it's
um,
too fresh, it's okay too.
no, no, it was 2 years ago. I was like, "We are good." I feel like with that situation and in that relationship, I felt like there was just so much lack of information about the entrepreneurial space. I think that it just that partner, it wasn't what they expected. I was very vulnerable. I shared a lot of personal information. Um, and I think what happened is it was a new level of visibility for them. And I think that that was not super ideal. I think we were
Hmm.
also, again, I didn't realize it, but I think I'm very thankful that they realized that we were definitely like that
Two
piece of
different
our life.
people.
Yeah,
Different people.
and one of the things that I learned coaching when we had relationship struggles, like 4.5 years in, was that, like, how to meet my own needs, and I'm so grateful for that lesson. I feel so self-sufficient and independent, and it was perfect, and
Yeah.
I also realized that, within that, I kind of, like, was just like, "Yeah, like, we can figure things out," and I think the other person just wanted, something different, and
Yeah.
we just really didn't communicate because I was like, "I'm just very self-sufficient." So I was listening to, one of the other podcasts that you had on, and I was, like, hearing about somebody else talking about relationships, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, we just, like, didn't communicate." And
Yeah.
I think that first and foremost, the willingness to communicate was the first piece, and it wasn't there on both sides. And
Mm.
then the just general skill set of communication, like again, like having a model for you for how to relationship, how to do those kind of things. I
Yeah.
don't think there's no school for that kind of stuff. So I think that that was just really good learning. And
Yes.
like with my new partner, he is wonderful. He is so in supportive of my dreams. And I think again, like you mentioned, like we started at my after almost, like, instead of, like, so he got to love and see me really
Yes.
once I had stepped into that, and I think it was
Yeah.
just an easier, growth curve.
And it's stepping into Megan. It's stepping into the person that God made you to be. When you're on the internet space, they're saying that if a woman's over 25, she's it's over with for her. And I'm
We're
thinking to
over.
them, I'm like these guys that are giving advice, they don't have experience with the opposite sex. They don't have relationship
Yeah.
experience because a lot of us are chasing an image or something that society told us was right for us when we're young because we just don't know. And then not
Oh,
until you really understand who you are you ready to really step into a healthy relationship. But you only learn that through experience, you know.
oh, yeah.
But I don't want to dive too deep into that. What I want to know is because we're almost close to the end of this
I
thing.
know.
Yeah, dang, man, time just flew by. Okay, so I typically ask people this question at the end of the show, but I want to know if you can give like I'm wondering how I should word this because we've spoken about self-improvement, we've spoken about
Yeah.
business, we talked about a few different things. And I want to know for somebody that is trying to change their life and to
Mhm.
change, and become a better person, to, chase their dreams or whatnot. Like what kind of advice would you give them?
Be open and optimistic. And that just, like, kinda came to me. I don't know why, but those are the 2 things that I think. First off, our brain is hardwired for negativity. It takes 5 positive thoughts to replace every negative thought. So, if you are I think that if you can learn how to reprogram your mind to think in a more maybe not necessarily optimistic, but opportunistic mindset, I think it's going to serve you in ways that you never really imagined. I think that for most of us, I think if we can overcome that, like, that fear response in our brain to do new things and actually follow our passions and our dreams and our desires, I think you're going to find that your life is extremely fulfilling and fruitful in ways that you really never imagined. So that's the like opportunistic slash optimistic side of things. And I would say open would be the second thing. I'm a planner by trade. I think that because of ADHD and many other things, that my brain loves to have a plan and it feels a lot of safety and certainty in kind of knowing what's next. And I found that everything that I had planned has not gone planned at all. It's like nothing I had planned is actually what my life is right now. And it's so much better than I
Mm,
ever could have possibly imagined. I mean, I was supposed to be a doctor, married at 22, with 2 kids. Like, that was the plan, and every single time the plan changed. And so what I've
yeah.
realized is that, like, make plans, have that certainty, have that vision and that, like, excitement and that dream, keep that alive, and also be open and flexible because even when nothing ever goes exactly as you plan, it leaves room for, the magic of it all and just, like, not magic. Oh, that sounds so cheesy. Oh, I was like, "Wait." I was like, "Cancel that." I was like, but, the what it's meant to be. Like, you can just and you can enjoy the present moment even more. My partner really helps me to do that because I'm very much future and, like, plans and organizing things, and he's like, "Let's just, like, enjoy today." And it's been so refreshing to be like it's just such a good we balance each other extremely well in that way, and that's what I would offer to other people too that are like me. Find the good and allow things to guide you where you need to go.
Megan Wing, thank you for being on the show. I
Oh,
really
cool.
enjoyed this conversation. I tried to find you on social media. I
I
looked up
just
your
tagged
name.
you.
It was a bunch of people who had like you did. you did reviews for a few different coaches on Instagram. So I kept seeing like different pages, but I saw your face. So if you can just, throw your Instagram out there and then we can
Yes.
end it with that.
Yes. Okay. So it's Megan Megan Wing Coaching on Instagram at Megan MEGANWING coaching COACHING. So that is my Instagram, and feel free to connect with me on Facebook. I'm Megan Ann with an E Wing there. Literally any form, and I can send you guys that information as well if you want to put it in the show notes for your people. I would be happy to connect on there. And I've been having some Instagram nuances. I'm just like experiencing and learning. And I've heard that from people before that it's been a little tricky to find me. So if that is the situation, my email is also meganwingcoaching@gmail.com, just to keep it real simple.
Hey, Megan, I loved our conversation. Thanks for having you. I mean, thanks for coming on to the show, and I'll catch you next time. All right, have a good one.
Thank you. Have a good
See you.
one.